Good morning. I think we'll get started. We're waiting on one of our speakers who will be here momentarily, but we will get started. We're scheduled to start at 8:30. My name is Barb Hendrickson, and I'm chairing the session this morning. Welcome. I'm an elected board member of the PDAC, and I'm co-chair of the PDAC Securities Committee. On behalf of my co-chair, Bruce McLeod, and the members of our Securities Committee, I wish to welcome you here today to our special session entitled High Frequency Trading in the Junior Resource Industry. We have 4 excellent speakers for you today, which I will have the privilege of introducing to you in a few minutes. Before I do that, though, and before I go over the agenda for today, I'd like to give you some background on today's session. As many of you know, the PDAC is the voice of the Canadian exploration industry and represents the interests of junior resource issuers in Canada and internationally. PDAC was first established over 80 years ago in 1932. We have approximately 10,000 members, and we hold the largest industry conferences in the world right here in Toronto. Last March, we had over 30,000 participants. One important part of our mission involves Canada's capital markets and the regulatory regimes that govern them. In fact, assisting juniors with capital raising was one of the reasons that PDAC was first established back in the 30s. Capital raising has always been an important issue for the PDAC, but more recently has been one of our 2 top priorities, along with access to land. Earlier this year, the Securities Committee conducted a series of roundtables across Canada, including in the cities of Vancouver, Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, and Halifax. The focus of the roundtables was to get input and feedback from our membership on issues related to the current securities regulatory environment in Canada and the capital crisis that our junior resource sector finds itself in. We got a lot of interesting feedback. There's a report on the findings which will be up on the PDAC website this week. One comment that we heard pretty commonly across Canada related to high-frequency trading. And there was general agreement, although it was not unanimous, that high-frequency trading was detrimental to our sector. There was concern that these practices manipulate stock prices, make it impossible for human brokers to respond to client needs fast enough, and therefore has a negative impact on junior resource issuers. Exchanges, we also heard the comment that exchanges are making money from this practice and providing incentives for high-frequency trading, and that was a conflict of interest for exchanges. So currently the Securities Committee is in the process of developing an advocacy strategy based on the feedback from the roundtable consultations, including on high-frequency trading. So we decided that as a committee that we required more information and knowledge on this important issue before we could properly formulate the position, and hence we are here today. So we have an agenda that's right up on the screen right now. And so what's going to happen is, before I introduce the speakers, we'll have 4 speakers. All of the speakers have agreed to take questions during and after the sessions. After the fourth speaker, we will have 30 minutes for a general discussion of the issues raised during the presentations. So before we get started, I'd like to give you an overview of the speakers and their presentations. Our first presenter is Dr. Andreas Park, who is a professor at the University of Toronto. Dr. Park will give us an overview of the Market Structure 101. The next speaker is Peter Haynes from TD Securities, who will provide more information background on high-frequency trading, and will focus on this issue from the perspective of listed companies. Thomas Kalafetis from CIBC World Markets is our third speaker. He will be providing us with more industry-specific information, including on how high-frequency trading can be advantageous in the exploration and mining sector. Our final speaker is Mark Francis, who consults to the junior resource industry. Mark will provide us with a perspective from the junior resource issuer and will suggest a number of strategies for coping. Okay, so this is a particularly complex area, and I've encouraged our speakers to err on the side of over-explanation and, frankly, repetition. So the way we'll handle the questions is Andreas will take questions after his sessions. Peter and Tom will take questions after their sessions, and then Mark will take questions, and then we're going to have 30 minutes of general questions. So we have a very diverse crowd here today, including representatives from a number of securities regulators and commissions, including the TMX, IROC, the Alberta Securities Commission, the OSC, CNXX, CHIX, and the proposed exchange Aquitas. Welcome to all of you, and I hope that you find the feedback today useful. So for those who are joining us via the webinar, the telephone lines will be muted. You will be able to hear what's going on in the room, but will not be able to ask questions on the phone. I would ask that questions for people on the webinar, they will be held till the end, and then they'll be asked in the last 30 minutes.